The singer is my friend Mari, who's a songwriter and a musician. He writes singer-songwriter style music. So the edits we're gonna be making today, the tuning it's called, is gonna be really subtle, and we're gonna resist making big changes. Generally, as a rule of thumb, with this style, with most styles, but especially with this style of music, less is more, right? The more tuning we need to do, the more we're gonna hear it, and that's not the goal. These blobs represent the different notes that Mari sings, and the lines in between them are exactly what Mari sings. The blobs are kind of averages of each note. It's the computer's software telling me what it thinks is supposed to happen. The line is exactly what happens. If we wanted to be super extreme about it, we could just go through and make the line look as much like the blob as possible, but that wouldn't sound so good. The line being different from the blob doesn't mean that what Mari's singing is wrong. It just means the software is telling me it's out of the average, which is fine. So we look at these blobs and let's take a listen.
Drinking liquor in the bathroom, there's a hole in your hand.
All right, I already sort of tuned that one, that line right there. And the first thing I did is I selected everything and I went to this tool, which is basically the computer doing tuning for us, right? So both of these knobs start at 0. I set pitch center to 75. That's the blob that we're talking about, right? Pitch drift is the line. I'm only gonna do that to 50%. If there's any notes that are, far enough off of center that 75% fix doesn't get it close enough to sound good, then we want to make those changes super intentionally, and we don't want the computer to do that for us. And then when it comes to the pitch drift, that's where you really hear tuning, is in the lines between the averages. And so we don't want the computer to do as much automatic processing. We want to have as much control as possible. So when we listen to this line, it's really smooth.
Drinking liquor in the bathroom, there's a hole in your hand.
Now the first thing I notice in this line is this note right here.
A hole in your hand.
Because it's not necessarily supposed to go all the way up to the top note, right? I can make it go there, and I think it would sound good. That's not a lot of tuning. It's not going to be obvious.
There's a hole in your hand.
Right? That sounds pretty natural. But I think I like Mari's original better. This is where, tuning is not just about being right and accurate. This is just about honoring the style the singer's going for. And I think in this case, Mari wanted it to be this note and not the other one. Let's look here really quick because I see some lines deviating from the blob and I just want to hear what's going on in a little more detail. I don't think that's a big problem. It's just sort of at the, we're getting to the bottom of Mari's range. And so naturally, as we get low in our range, things aren't as full and hearty as they are right in the middle of our range, right? Where we're most comfortable singing. And so Mari's working to get down to that note. I can maybe help him out a little bit by just splitting this into 3 different sections and just dragging these 2 that are a little sharp down. Now these are 3 blobs instead of 1 blob, and those averages are all a little closer. Let's listen.
In the bathroom, there's a hole in.
See, it's just a little closer. Now what I am noticing is now that I made that change, the end right here goes a little flat, right? Shape of that line was preserved in the blob as we moved the blob. Before, the whole blob was a little higher, so that line was resolving down to the correct pitch. But now that I move the whole blob down, it resolves down a little flat. And so I'm just gonna split again and move that blob. Now that's probably about where it was originally. And so now it sounds like, great, perfect. Well, close enough.
Bruh.
Nothing's ever perfect. So now we'll listen to the next line.
You call me crying still in pity, cause you know that you can't dig.
Okay. Actually, the first thing I noticed is that this note is wrong.
You call me crying still.
Doesn't quite sound right? When we slow it down.
You call me crying.
That line, it's drifting down to the right note. It's supposed to be where this one is. But let's just help it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom in here just so we get a really good look. And I'm just gonna flatten this out a bit and then put it where it's supposed to be. Now, that's a more extreme way of tuning. The only reason I'm doing it that way in this case is because we don't have a lot to work with, and I can see that it's not, I'm gonna get away with it, basically. You're always just doing what you can get away with, you know? If we listen,
You call me crying still.
you sort of heard the transition down, but we can soften that just a little, and I think it's gonna sound good.
You call me crying still.
Great, I love that. I do hear the flatness here, and you can see it too. And this one I'm gonna do more how I normally do, which is by splitting, right? We wanna try to see what happens. I'm guessing I'm gonna need to smooth these transitions a little bit, but let's just, honestly, actually, I'm gonna undo that and we'll hear how it's.
You call me
That's actually fine. I'm gonna put them just because,
You call me
honestly, I can't hear the difference that much. There's some weird stuff going right here, which is what we're hearing is a little off there.
me.
It's just a lot of change really quickly. I could try to flatten that out a little bit. Again, I'm gonna need to fix this transition, but
You call me
yeah, I think that's a little better. But, you know, again, we're going for a natural vocal here, so we don't need to process everything to crap.
You call.
Now, you see this huge line here, right? We don't really hear it because it's the start of a new line. Mari was just singing way down here. And so in our brains, it's really natural for that line to be there. We don't hear it super obviously, but if I slow it down, you can hear it. Right, this is where Mari ends up. Now, when we slow it down, it's really obvious. And you'd think it sounds bad, but
You call.
it happens so fast. You, right? Slides happen super naturally in singing all the time. Sometimes we don't want it, sometimes we do. In this case, I think it's totally fine.
You call.
And this is what I mean when I say tune with your ears, not your eyes, is we can look at that and say, ooh, that's way off. But it doesn't sound off. It sounds totally natural for Mari to slide up to that place. There's slides all over the place. There's a slide right here, which we already fixed.
Me crying still.
Crying.
You call me crying still in pity, 'cause you know that you can.
Now, I saw something that looks weird. It doesn't sound super weird, but we should still fix it because, well, just because. And what that is right here.
Still in pity. Pity.
This is 2 notes.
Huh?
The computer didn't mark it as 2 notes, right? It made one big blob. We should really separate this so we can make sure that whatever processing we're doing to it is correct. I think this word is pity.
Pity.
Yep. It's pity. It's 2 notes. It's 1 word, so it split the word correctly, but it really, the reason it didn't split it into 2 blobs is because on the PI of pity, Mari's singing a little flat. And so it was close enough to the note that Mari ends up on that the software just called it 1 note. But we know better. So we're going to zoom in. This is where I want to be really careful. Make sure we make this change correctly.
Pity.
And split. And I'm going to drag this up a bit because it's just a little too far for my taste. Another way we can do that is double click it. That puts it straight to center. Again, I see a drift here, and I'm just going to drag this again.
Pity.
And that's why we made that change. It's not that it's immediately obvious listening to the song, oh man, you know, that was so flat before, now it's not. It's just good housekeeping, you know, keeping everything honest. I want all my blobs, unless something sounds great and changing, you know, splitting the blobs is going to ruin that. I want all the blobs to be accurate.
Pity, 'cause you know.
And then 'cause you, right here, this next word, this is 2 words. Let's look at what's going on here. What's happening here is that this is 'cause you, it's 2 words, should be the same note. So it's fine in theory for it to be 1 blob, even though it's 2 words, it's the same note, 'cause you. But what's going on with the line here is that naturally when we sing Y sounds, especially Americans, because we have strong diphthongs when we speak. A diphthong is like, when we make the Y sound, you can hear it's happening in Mari's voice. We naturally go a little sharp. You, because we go you, especially Americans with diphthongs, right? Everything's processed back here, and the way that we sing you, we make a little bit of E sound.
A few moments later.
When we're singing, we're trying to be accurate to a certain pitch. That's what singing is. And so when you say you can hear my voice like you, that's the exaggerated version. The pitch goes sharp a little bit, and so I want to correct that. And like before, what we're going to do is we're going to split this up into blobs. So without even listening to it, I was guessing my split would be here, and my split would be here.
Light bulb.
Maybe another one here, but let's cross that bridge when we get there. This is the why.
Because you know that you.
Cause you. And Mari doesn't really say you. Mari says yeah. Cause you know. Cause you know. So the A happens really quickly. It's right here. And then this is no, no. Mari's going down a little bit. So I am gonna make a correction there. Just drag this up a bit, drag this down a little bit. Just to average, I'll just double click them just to average them out. I'm gonna double click this. And let's see what we can do here. Cause you, right? That's that Y. So let's just see what happens if I put it here.
Because you know.
Way better, right? Oh, it's so satisfying when things are that easy to change. Okay.
No.
Again, I just split that right there.
Because you know that you can.
This is a slide. The only reason I split these, this isn't wrong. And I can totally leave it.
Can.
It's fine for it to be a slide. It's stylized. It creates movement and feeling. I just want to separate these blobs so that I can see that they're two separate things, see where the lines are. I could see from the lines that even when it was one blob, this wasn't wrong. This is ending up right in the middle of the pitch, and it goes back up as Mara goes into the next word, which is way higher. But I want to separate. I'm making a tiny change there. It's not noticeable. I want to separate just for good housekeeping. Now let's zoom out and just listen to what we did. After, we're zoomed way in, we want to go back and make sure it all sounds good together.
Drinking liquor in the bathroom, there's a hole in your hand. You call me crying, still in pity, cause you know that you can.
And this is usually the point. Once I've done what we just did to the whole vocal, then I'll usually go in and adjust timing. So we would just listen. Often I'll go in with the metronome.
Drinking liquor in the bathroom, there's a hole in your hand. You call me crying, still in pity, cause you know that you can.
Generally, pop, radio pop is all about accuracy and perfection as much as it's attainable. Not so much here. Mari's allowed to play with the with the rhythm a little more.
Did get in me to save you, make you feel like more of a man. You're trading.
Often it's the beginning of lines where we just come in a little late. These lines signify the measures, and so I can use this little arrow as a means of making sure that I'm being accurate. But really we want to use our ears first.
Make you feel like more of a man. You're trading stories for a body, cause you know that you can.
Sounds good? Now, if we're looking at pitch again, this word right here is maybe where I want to do some work, maybe over here. This eye test would tell me there's probably something we need to do here. But let's take a listen.
Did get in me to save you, make you feel like more of a man.
Okay, this is the one that needs a little more work. We don't need the metronome anymore. This actually is fine. If we slow it down. This is not noticeable. Especially in this style of music, we do not need to fix that. That's a little scoop up. Our ears are used to hearing that little dip or the changes in pitch that are associated with each sound that we make. Our ears are used to that, and it compensates for that. It doesn't sound incorrect, it sounds natural. So those deviations are important. This one may be a little too much, but again, I didn't really hear it, so. It's a little strong. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna fix it, and the way I'm gonna make this fix, I'm gonna zoom way in, I'm gonna separate. This is all great. I don't wanna change any of that. So I'm gonna separate right before it. I'm gonna drag this down just a little bit. And because I made a change there, I'm gonna use this to just smooth that transition. Now there's a big drop here again. Get in. When we make that I sound, again, that's just a natural sound. If we want, we could just use this tool and slam everything to center, but it sounds shit. See, suddenly we have no dynamics at all. There's no change in the vocal. It's way too flat. For some reason, my video cut out, so I'm just going to do a voiceover. Did get in me to save you, make you feel like more of a man. That sounds much better, but the more of a man section we need to look at just sounds a little all over the place. Feel like more of a man. If we just make it a little more precise,
more of a man,
should be good.
like more of a man,
Let's just do some cuts. Split this into probably 3 parts.
man, like more of a man,
It's already better. Just get this down.
more of a man,
That tail is the only thing I'm worried about.
like more of a man.
Better. Guitar.
Make you feel like more of a man. You're trading stories for a body, 'cause you know that you can't. Stories for a body.
Just something a little funky I want to look at right there. Yep. That scoop just starts a little low.
You're trading stories.
And the beginning of trading looks like it's a little flat. So let's get rid of the guitar and just split this.
You're trading stories for
Much
a
better.
body, 'cause you know that you can't.
Something in cut. Yeah.
Body, 'cause you know that you can't.
It's a simple enough change that I don't feel like we have to get too fancy with it.
Know
I just
that
want to
you
clean up
can't.
this last word here.
You know that you can't.
Better.
You're trading stories for a body, 'cause you know that you can't. Yeah, you know that you can.
Great. And just got to remember to save.